SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
No one should have to decide if they can afford life-saving care. Expanding Medicaid would bring billions in federal funding back to our state. It helps stabilize rural hospitals providing critical care. Text BETTER to 46839.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive.
It always feels almost sacrilegious to start talking before this is done. Every Friday. Just fantastic job with the selection there for the intro music. Good morning and welcome to Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Dave Hughes in on a Friday, and of course Lance over in the booth as always. Lance Tolbert, how you doing, sir?
Man, I am hanging in there. It's a Friday, right? I didn't miss a day yet. Wednesday, I thought it was Thursday. So yeah, I'm getting straight by the end of the week, Dave. Worry not.
You know, and I'm gonna break some bad news to you that you probably already know. The older you get, the worse that becomes. I have had 3 Tuesdays this week.
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad I'm not the only one, because I really did. It was just like Wednesday. I talked to Cross. I'm like, today is Wednesday, right? I mean, kind of feel like I'm dealing with a Thursday here. But with all the stuff happening all the time, it's easy to lose track of what day it actually is. You know,
you say that. I've got a question for you. I've been asking people this, and I want your take on it. I want your opinion. How long can we continue at the pace of 6 major breaking news stories per hour every hour before everyone burns out on the whole thing?
I don't know. That's a great question, though. It feels that I don't know if we're stuck in a time loop or something, or if time is actually sped up to like 10 times the normal speed of life. But it just feels like it. I don't know how long it goes, how long people can withstand the cycle of news and just so much to deal with every day. And then you get storms. I mean, it's always something that you've got to kind of worry about. So I have a lot of sympathy, and my heart goes out to everybody that's dealing with the same things that we talk about every day. But I don't see the end of it coming, and I hope folks are fairly thick-skinned, because we may have a good bit more of the jockeying. As we've seen this week, it's the Democrats have doubled down on their 25% approval rating. They're going to really ramrod through these policies, and the American people have spoken in a mandate and said, we don't like this stuff, and yet, that's where we are. So we live in a bizarro world right now, and that creates the cycle of news that we're in, because it just seems to never go away. It gets crazier and crazier, right? I mean, the Signal thing, how crazy is that?
Well, my first question on that entire scandal is, before that happened, show of hands, who had ever used Signal before?
I think I did once or twice accidentally. Somebody was like, hey, man, shoot me a message on Signal. I'm like, yeah, what is that? I mean, yeah. What am I doing here?
It's, how do I put this politely? Oh, wait, no, the time for politely was a couple of decades back. We're past that now. As they continue to desperately claw for something to be upset about. Was it a mistake? Yes. Were mistakes made? You bet. Does that mean we should take everyone and keel haul them? No. But if you listen to some of the voices on the left, everybody needs to go. Mike Waltz needs to go. Tulsi Gabbard needs to go. Pete Hegseth needs to go. All of them. The whole crew. Just clean house completely. To which I reply with a very well thought out, long ruminated on this response to all of those opinions, which is, where you can stick it. Shut up.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. No one's going to lose their job over this, I don't think, unless it's some low-level staffer. Waltz is taking responsibility for something that was or was not his responsibility. But, the administration is circling wagons and doing what you do when you have leadership, and that is say, I'm sorry, we won't do this again. We don't know what happened. And, it was a mistake. I know Trump was very upset, as reports go, behind the scenes. But, you're trying to keep a unified front. You don't want to throw anybody under the bus for something you don't really know what happened. I don't know if it's really coincidental that the guy's info got plugged into a messaging app, which you have to physically input that, or there could have been some staffer that put it in, or so but the guy at the top's taking blame for it, and you move on. I don't believe you make that mistake again. That's the mark of learning, isn't it? You
Yes.
make a mistake and you say I'm sorry, and you take your punishment, and then you move on, and you don't make that mistake again. And I would be very surprised if we see this one happen again.
My favorite reaction to all of this, and they're trying to get it to pick up speed and get some steam behind it online, especially on X, the liberal accounts. And I follow several liberal accounts on there. Why? Because I need a chuckle a lot of days.
Laugh.
The big thing they're doing now is when Trump was asked about the signal thing, and he said, I don't know much about it. I wasn't in that conversation. And I've been told there was no classified information, but aside from that, I don't know much. And now listen to the Democrats. After the last 4 years that we had under President Bumblesnoot, they are now saying, did you hear that? He doesn't know. Who's running the country? Oh, honey, you don't want to start that conversation. Really? Really? But they're doing it with a straight face. They're serious because that's all they've got. They've got nothing.
Well, and you can't really say that the information leaked was sensitive enough to affect an outcome of a planned operation. So you can't go with that. Obviously, so you've got to find something, and there's no Democrat or no liberal from the left is going to support Trump as far as the elected officials. We know that. We were just listening this morning to how difficult, it is on the Maria Bartiromo show interviewing one of the congressmen and senators that, the majority is razor thin. Getting anything done is very difficult. There is no super majority. And so, having the extra 2 in there on the House, those things matter. And these are very, very difficult negotiations because you have to have a little Democrat support there. You need a little bit. And to know that the razor-thin margins are there and the parties being so far apart. I mean, I don't know if in history we've ever seen two groups as far as political leaders, that far apart. So it is interesting that you have to make friends with folks that you cannot deal with, from a fundamental standpoint in order to get certain things done. And that's one, I guess, the great and terrible things about, our country is that you have to go that. You have to make compromise sometimes when you don't want to. And I think we saw that somewhat on the House bill here in the state with a Republican supermajority, I mean, it was almost like yesterday, when Trey Lamar was talking so good about the Republicans in the House and Senate and how well they'd gotten along recently, and that's he's being nice. I mean, it's a lot more heated than Trey was illustrating to us yesterday, and he's a gentleman. But you get to that point where you get something done, and you're very happy you do. But getting there, woo!
Well, Ed, I do have to admit, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it over the weekend and the first part of last week. If you recall, last Friday morning, I dug it up. Nobody but WAPT had reported on the typo at that point.
Yeah, you got it, too.
And I threw it out there. And if you recall, we had Sid Salter on the show last Friday, and he said, well, they're going to fix it. Well, Sid, no, it didn't quite play out that way because the House said, this is fine. Yeah, it's passed. We like this.
We'll fix it. Yeah, we'll get to it. And as Trey said, there's all kind of typos and things you have to deal with. And, there's errors that are made. People are human, and, it's good that you can get something done and it's not hung up because of some small technicality. But in the end, I mean, that technicality is a lot of money.
Yes, that's a big deal. It basically takes it from taking 20 years for the income tax to be completely eliminated to 10. basically is the functional effect of that, at least potentially.
But since last we spoke, a lot has happened, right? And everybody,
yes,
and we also have sports, and you got the Sweet 16. Ole Miss found their way into that, and
playing tonight.
Yeah, got it tonight. You got crazy baseball going on, and Ole Miss has rescheduled their Friday, Saturday to just a doubleheader today. Don't know if that'll happen with State. Down in the Red Stick, they're expecting rain as well on Saturday in that neck of the woods. So who knows what's going to happen with the baseball schedule. As of today, though, Ole Miss will be playing a doubleheader. And, just a lot going on out there, man. I mean,
heck, we're expecting rain.
First pitch was yesterday, and Richard and I were like, oh, it was, that's today, man.
Today's the start of the season. Yeah,
that's right. Okay. So coming to a head here.
It's been weird. Go Braves. Let me just get that in right at the start of the season, and I'll build on it as the year goes on. Don't worry about that.
And I have to say this, Paul Gallo is sitting up there in his chair and probably having a good cup of coffee, reading the paper this morning, looking down and going, my Redbirds won the opening day. And
there we go.
He's at least happy today, so we'll see how that goes.
It's been a rocky road for the past few years, so hopefully it's a much better road for him looking down and watching it, because he's catching every game now.
Every one of them. Yeah, he's got it.
Not going to miss an inning, not a pitch is he going to miss. Just getting started. We will continue here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi on a Friday morning.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Yesterday, President Trump signed his 100th executive order on the 100th day of his administration. One a day he's averaging, even. That's pretty good.
Like a vitamin, yeah.
Yeah, he's doing the one a day executive order plan, and so far I think it's working out pretty good. Yesterday was kind of interesting because he's been doing a lot of the ceremonies, and he'll sit there and they'll read out what it's about, and then he signs it while he makes some comments and he holds it up. The one he signed yesterday was not in a ceremony; it was just in the office, just signed it, and then they announced it, directing the Smithsonian Institute to basically do away with the nonsense. I think.
Tell us where the giant bones are. Yeah, that's what we.
Yes. What do you know about the UFOs?
Yeah, they probably got one in the basement. In the big flying display. I remember that one had all the airplanes and the World War II stuff and the biplane. Down in the basement of that one, they've got to have some alien craft or something from inner Earth or wherever they're from. Orb.
It dropped out of the news cycle because the news cycle, as we were talking about in the first segment, has reached an insane speed. It doesn't take long for things to cycle out.
No, well, I mean, you haven't heard anything about UFOs lately and drones or any of that stuff, and that was kind of a big deal there for a minute.
It still is. You're just not hearing about it.
Thought we were getting invaded by the Martians.
I will have to look it up and figure out. Let me see if I can find it real quick because I'm pretty sure I saved that.
I might go back and watch the movie Stargate again, for about the 50th time, just to polish up on my on my space.
If you were watching the Yankees game yesterday, you got to see one. They were panning the camera across the flags, and just hanging there was this round silver orb, just perfectly stationary, not moving. And they caught it. And once they realized what they had the camera on, then all of a sudden it was time to fade it out and go back to the field. But it was just.
What if
plain and obvious?
Yeah, what if they were like from inner Earth? And just kidding around here, but what if they were from inner Earth and they had been coming back for years and taking all the classic cars and taking them down there and fixed them? It's like Cuba, kind of. But so and then they have this like disguise device, camo, so they can fly them around and you don't know what they are. But what if they were all like 57 Buicks and stuff, and they were flying around? They just have some light refracting device, whatever.
Now you have opened up the possibility, as slim as it might be, of a UFO up on blocks in front of a mobile home.
Yeah, now I'm game for that. That would make me feel more like comfortable with aliens. To know that they had like a UFO on blocks over there that had hot wired and there was some duct tape to it. Back here in the back, Junior's boiling some crawfish or a possum stew. That would, if we knew they were like that, then we'd probably bringing back Buicks and Plymouths for us to see. Oh yeah, bring that. That's a classic car, man. They would take over the coast for the cruising the coast day. That'd be fun.
Yes.
But no, we don't know what they are. Right.
My name is Fleasel Snart, but you can call me Zeke. Got a trucker hat on. It would be great. Yeah, I've got a real nice place here. Yeah. So that's still going on. You just don't hear about it anymore. They quit talking about it.
What happened to that?
Now, that immediately, because like I said, yesterday, as we talked about in the last segment, was opening day. Mm-hmm. We had one broadcast live on TV over Yankee Stadium yesterday.
Yeah, that's the Bronx.
There's a
few people there. In the Bronx there.
Couple of folks. This is not out in the sticks somewhere where that happened.
That's what's so bizarre about all this, honestly. And that's to me, and I love our listeners' opinion, because we did have those conversations for a while about what they are and this and that, and everybody, don't worry, they're looking for this, and then you get these reports. Nothing definitive ever came out of that. Even with the Trump administration, which kind of surprised me a little bit, given that he was. The guy that's going to pull the curtain back on everything, that was one that just kind of went, all right, nothing to see here. Look the other way.
During a press conference not too long after he was sworn in, somebody asked him about the drones. He said, oh yeah, we were going to find out about that. Turned to his aide and said, find out about that. I want to know right now. And then about a week later, they mentioned it in a press briefing and said they were all authorized.
Yeah. What were they? National security. You should know. It's a need-to-know basis.
By who? Thanos? I mean, who authorized them is step one in that conversation. But that's
right after that quantum computer came online and they took it offline, too.
To me, and you'll understand this, making a rushed decision is never a good choice.
No. Hasty decisions usually end about how you made them.
You come from the financial world. You don't make snap, draw from the hip decisions. That never turns out well.
No, those gut you usually, those emotional decisions.
With the news cycle as it is, that's the only kind of decision that we can make at this point as voters, as taxpayers, is shoot from the hip, gut check decisions, because you don't have time to think about anything before the next thing moves along, and we forget about the last one.
Well, and go to NPR. I mean, how crazy is the NPR situation?
I thought you liked me and you want me to go. No, I will not go to NPR.
But that is one of the more bizarre stories. We've known for decades that it's a very biased media entity, and obviously favors the left, but when you look at the structure of it, the things that have been said, the type of people that are employed there, as far as which political leanings they have, it is not biased. It is absolutely, you've whitewashed it to where it's just one thought process. It's the echo chamber that is not good for anything. I don't care. I mean, Republicans don't need to be in an echo chamber either. You've got to have the other perspective, and you've got to be real about that and respect the other side. When you have an entity funded by the taxpayer that's there to really just push the liberal agenda, and then the CEO or whatever you want to call her is just sitting there very nonchalant about it, that's what you get. I mean, and that should be alarming to Americans and most people, is the way that you have the left capable of deflecting, deferring, or not answering anything. Jasmine Crockett, hey, what about the apology? I ain't apologizing. I put out a statement. You know, I mean, like, that's not the same thing. Well, there was no apology. And, you know, then you just give up. I think that kind of circles back to there's so much news. What story do you stay on like a dog on a bone? Which one is it? Because they're all like that, right?
You can't. Yeah. There's a limited amount of attention that you can pay. That's why things like the UFOs, which admittedly haven't been seen nationally since yesterday, on opening day of Major League Baseball.
It reminds me of the Major League day when Serrano hits the bird.
Yes.
He fouls one off an alien up there. Yeah.
Well, it's everything is just getting memory hold, one thing after another. You mentioned the NPR thing. By the way, that woman, I have never seen anyone with a more advanced case of suffering from delusions of adequacy in my life than her.
Yeah, I mean, being embarrassed to be white, too, apparently, is one of her major problems, that she has with herself, is that she's a white woman. I mean, this country is addicted to white supremacy. Really? Have you been anywhere on the planet? I mean, I'd love to see the diversity that you profess we should be. Have you taken a look anywhere? People want to come here for a reason because we are diverse and we're welcoming. We have work. We care about people. And you're going to sit here and say this country should be ashamed of itself. We're addicted to white supremacy. Come on, don't lecture me. Pack your bag and go home, and let's just shut the program down if that's what we've been funding with your taxpayer dollars. Come on.
Unfortunately, they get exactly what they want out of that. Mm-hmm. Because here we are still talking about it, giving them the attention they so desperately crave. Yeah. The only way to deal with them in this level of nonsense is to ignore it. If they start saying all of these things and nobody pays them a lick of attention...
Well, we wouldn't have any fun then, you and I.
Well, we wouldn't have any fun, true, but... that would annoy them and hurt them emotionally worse than anything.
You got to be validated, right? I mean, everybody needs to be validated.
But that's the point, and that is a very valid story, a very valid problem. They pointed out that of the 87 people at NPR, 87 of them are registered Democrats. That's a problem.
And then she said, we don't keep up with things like that. Well, other people do.
But here's the thing. With the news cycle and the way everything is going, this time next week, no one will even remember that story. No one will be talking about it. There will be no focus on it. There will be no attention paid to it. It's hard to fix potholes when you're doing 90.
That's a great point. Yep.
And I just feel like we need to slow it down just a little bit so we can actually deal with some of this stuff. I worry about some of these things like NPR that are going to slip through the cracks because, well, we're on to the next thing immediately. By the way, if Mattel...
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Super Talk Mississippi Mornings. Dave Hughes here. I was serious with that suggestion, by the way. Do it sell them for charity.
That you gotta cover that because that's a great idea, and you just embrace it at this point because nothing's going to happen.
You take something dumb that a stupid, hateful person said, and you turn it into a force for good. It's emotional jiu-jitsu.
And what we were laughing about as we went into the break was that Governor Hot Wheels should have some kind of deal with Mattel for some kind of co-sponsorship NIL package here because that's a genius piece of marketing and embrace it. At some point you just embrace it. Let's just move on from the crazy. But well, we've got a crazy weekend kind of going. I'll start it off with weather. As of Saturday, we're probably going to have rain from tip to toe and from on both wings as well of Mississippi. So just be careful. The wind should be gusting around. We've seen reports in the 30s and 35 miles an hour. I will continue to warn you about the pine trees for folks that are in the pine belt that have had the beetles and the death of those huge pine trees. They're still everywhere. Now, Mississippi and the municipalities and road folks have done a great job of working through that, but they're so numerous that they're just still there. So you're going to have to pay attention in these gusty times, especially as the ground is pretty soaked a little bit, and that makes this stuff a little more unstable. So be careful. We don't want you to get hit with anything. As Governor Abbott was hit by a falling tree. And
yes.
That's so, and it's happened. We lost a life a week or so ago from the same type thing. So be careful, folks. And there will be gusty wind. There will be rain. Saturday looks to be the day. So that leads us into we'll start with baseball quickly because, we had a ball game or two last night that were important. Florida dropped one to Ole Miss in Oxford, 7-5. Pretty good ball game. I mean, Florida got out ugly and just stayed with it. Ole Miss, Hunter Elliott kind of battled through, and what a Friday night guy does, he just kind of keeps you in the game. So Ole Miss had a good showing there on a Thursday, kind of rebounding a little bit from, you've had the playing at home, it seems, has been a little more difficult for Ole Miss at times in the past. And you've had a pretty good run. You opened the season with a 1-2 against Arkansas, and then you started now with a big win against a Florida team who's struggling with injuries. So that will commence today at 3 o'clock. You'll have a double header with Ole Miss and Florida. I can't tell you if that's 2 7-inning games right now. I don't know. But if I find that information, I will share it with you. A lot of times they do those doubleheaders 7-7, but that's usually on a Saturday. So being on a Friday, you have 2 more days to finish this series. So not quite sure how that one's going to break down, but I will try to find that for you. Now, Mississippi State, they dropped kind of a heartbreaker last night. Really, it was a good ball game. It's hard to say what goes wrong sometimes, but State dropped that one 8-6, not starting out as well as they would like to in the SEC play. LSU, again, a good team through the lefty Anderson, and he kind of befuddled them a little bit for a while. But State again had a solid night. Just was not able to punch through late in that game, where LSU kind of took it, and they will commence today at 6:30. Now again, rain is expected for Saturday. Baton Rouge is no exception to that, as I've looked at the Baton Rouge radar. So who knows what's going to happen with that Saturday game, but it is a 2 o'clock game on Saturday, 6:30 today, and that's where we stand as far as the SEC play that I'm going to go into. Now, Southern Miss has South Alabama. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series, 6-2-1, and unless weather affects Pete Taylor Park, which it very well could. Hattiesburg has similar forecast, so just keep your eyes peeled on that. Delta State, they will be taking on the University of Alabama and Huntsville. Now, they're going to be at Harvey Stadium, Ferris Field, so they'll be at the house. Hopefully they'll get those games in again Friday, Saturday. Oh, there's 2 Fridays and a Saturday, 2-5 on Friday, and then 4 o'clock on Saturday. Mississippi College had a big win on Tuesday against a great William Carey team. Somebody finally outscored William Carey. They beat him 16-11, and Mississippi College will get back on the hill Friday, and they will be playing Valdosta State, and that is a road game. So maybe they're going to get those 3 in. But Mississippi College has started out extremely strong, and anytime you can beat William Carey, that's a pretty good feather in your cap. And
especially this year.
Oh, man, William Carey, I mean, they're just beating up people. So if you can outscore those guys, that's saying something. And William Carey will be – oh, come on, man. What happened to my William Carey? There we go. William Carey, after dropping that game, and they won in the weekend 18-6, 22-6, and 17-0. Dropped the game, Mississippi College, 16-11. They'll have Georgia Gwinnett College Friday and Saturday, 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 1 o'clock, and that is going to be in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So, again, weather could affect that. Just keep your eyes peeled. And Pearl River Community College, I want to highlight them. They're 27-5, junior college ball, 7-1 in conference play. So they're the leader right now, probably about halfway through the season. You also I have an update for you with high school baseball. A few days old here, but we'll go through a few of the top 5. Magnolia Heights earlier in the week was 17-3. They may have played since then. Lewisburg comes in at number 2, 14-3. Madison Central 12-3. Ocean Springs 12-3-1. And then Jackson Academy at 13-2. Hartfield right behind them with the same record at 13-2. So that's your top 6 there in high school baseball as we continue to ease through the season. Well, let's get over to some Sweet 16 action because there's a lot to talk about there with some big games that happened last night. Florida, 87-71 over Maryland. Wasn't really tested too bad in that one. Florida led at the half by a couple, but then really spread it out in the second half. Duke with a fairly easy win there again. Good game up to half and stayed pretty, give and take in the second half with Duke and Arizona, but Duke won that one 100-93. Arkansas dropped a heartbreaker, went into OT. Texas Tech outscored them 13-11 in the bonus period. So Tech is going to advance. They beat them 85-83. Kind of a heartbreaker there because Arkansas had kind of been playing above their weight a little bit here. And it looked like they were going to take that one to the house, but their second half, they just seemed to, the bucket got real small and just couldn't make enough shots there down the stretch. And the big game last night was 113-88, Alabama over BYU. So that was kind of a spanking. Alabama looked really good in that one, kind of routed BYU there. The matchups today, though, we have a Thursday basketball, Friday basketball.
There you go again.
I'm telling you, man, I can't get it right this week. But Ole Miss is going to be at, it is but it's the South region. You got Michigan State, 6 o'clock. You can get in the door for around $300 on that one. Atlanta, Georgia. Michigan State's about a 3.5-point fave on that, but you also have the over-under there at 144.5. So it ought to be a pretty high-scoring ball game. I don't think you'll see something like that BYU-Alabama game, but it should be a good game, and Ole Miss has been playing very good basketball. So go Rebels, see if they can punch through the Sweet 16 little ceiling that they've had. Kentucky at Tennessee ought to be an epic game, 6:30. The Ole Miss game's at 6:09 on CBS. The Kentucky-Tennessee is TBS and True TV. You get in the door for that one, $93 in Indianapolis if you're around Lucas Oil Stadium. Michigan at Auburn. Michigan's got to be looking at that one going, oh, man. Another $300 in the door game, 8:39 p.m. on CBS. Auburn favored 8.5 on that, 153.5. Being the over-under on that one should be a few scores. Is
8.5 a little low?
I would say,
to be favored on that one.
Well, and Michigan's a solid team, but Auburn. Yeah. I mean, Auburn could put up 20, on them. I mean, that's the type team they have when they get rolling. It's it's kind of tough to stop them. It's like a snowball going downhill. Now, Purdue and Houston will tie up at 9, so it's a kind of a late night ball game there. Again, TBS True TV if you're up late enough for that one. Another Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis, Indiana game. Houston's favored 8.5, over under 135. 131.5 on that.
I realize it's in large part due to television schedules, but have we ever had this many games start this late during the college basketball playoffs?
We also have Ole Miss playing UCLA in the women's side tonight. So, I mean, that's a Sweet 16 matchup in Spokane. And I mean, when you're talking about, it's just basketball everywhere. A 9 o'clock game. I mean, you kind of have jet lag. It would just staying up watching that one. But Ole Miss plays the number 1 seed UCLA, 32-2. I mean, that's remarkable, right? Yeah, that's now you can get in the door for that one at $2, but I'm not quite sure how many people are going to be making the trip to Spokane here late in the afternoon. But UCLA is favored in that one 9.5. 134.5 is the over-under. Sounds a little high for a ladies' game, but again, both of these teams can shoot it pretty well when the lights come on. So LSU and NC State on the ladies' side will play. Maryland and South Carolina and North Carolina and Duke as well. And that's what I got for you on sports today, and hopefully everybody will have something to pay attention to. And if you make it over to your to your local sports book, have some fun. There will be plenty of opportunities for parlays, I can tell you that. There's enough games to go around for everyone.
Well, and if you're going to travel with the Ole Miss Lady Rebels, you should have plenty of open seating in the Ole Miss section to choose from. Yeah. It's hard to travel well to Sacramento on a Friday.
Oh, man, it's out there, buddy, let me tell you. So, yeah, good luck to everybody playing today, and Mississippi well represented. So, hopefully we'll get some W's.
When we come back, it's lottery time, baby. My favorite part of the day. And we will take a look at all those fat stacks of cash you could be raking in right after this.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up.
Time to shine! Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, Super Talk Mississippi. And before we get to all that money you get to put in your pocket, just one quick thing we want to clear up. It's not 7-inning games, it's 9-inning games, yes, right, Lance?
You got it. JB in Houston, the 601, Darren and Jackson. All of you guys, thank you so much for jumping on that. Out of all the windows I had open, the one I probably should have had open, the Ole Miss media site, was not on the list. So thank you guys, you're great. And so, yeah, 2 9-inning games today, and I believe they are starting at 3 p.m., 45 minutes in between. So pack your bags and be ready to go.
Right.
Make sure
take
you
your
got
umbrella just in case. You might need it to get back to the car because
exactly.
the rain could start late today. We'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
Lottery. I get to say no jackpot winner a lot again, which ultimately is a good thing because that means the jackpots are building. We'll start with Lotto America. No jackpot winner. The numbers that were last drawn were Wednesday. Those numbers were 16, 19, 30, 37, 47. The Star Ball was 6, and the All-Star bonus multiplier was 2. The estimated jackpot for tomorrow night's drawing, $27.47 million. The estimated cash value, $12.94 million. As always, I will very cheerfully accept the $0.94 million. I'm fine. I'm easy to please. Yeah,
I could live off of that.
Powerball, yeah, you'd never hear from me again if I got just that. No jackpot winner for Powerball. The numbers drawn on Wednesday were 5, 20, 29, 39, 53, and the Powerball 6. The Power Play multiplier was 3. Well, the jackpot, it's kind of getting on up there. Tomorrow night's the next drawing. That jackpot, $515 million has gotten to. The cash value, the estimate on that, $242.7 million. Double play, the numbers from Wednesday, 26, 32, 41, 51, 66, and the Powerball, 22. There was a winner on Mega Millions. A Mega Millions ticket matched all 6 numbers in the March 25th drawing, plus the Mega Ball, to win $344 million. Cash value estimated at $159.1 million. The winning ticket was apparently purchased at Casey's General Store in Cortland, Illinois. That brings our starting jackpot back to $20 million. More on that in a second, by the way. Estimated cash value, $9.2 million. The numbers, those numbers that won somebody in Illinois that jackpot on Tuesday were 1, 5, 17, 39, 62. The Mega Ball was 8, and the Mega multiplier was 2. Mississippi Match 5, no jackpot winner. Estimated jackpot for tonight, $85,000. Last night's drawing were brought up the numbers 3, 18, 21, 31, and 34. Cash 3, Cash 4, Fireball, and Cash Pop. Cash 3, the $500 game. Yesterday, the midday drawing was 9, 3, and 8. The evening drawing was 5, 1, and 4. The $5,000 Cash 4 game. The midday drawing was 7, 2, 8, and 9. The evening drawing was 5, 9, 5, and 8. Fireball, midday was a 6, evening was a 1, and Cash Pop, midday was a 7, and the drawing for last night was a 13. Now, I mentioned that there were changes, or I mentioned we had more to talk about with Mega Millions. Next week, things are going to change in a big way. Starting next Saturday, actually, April 5th, the Mega Millions is getting a makeover. The jackpots, we just had a winner, so it started back at $20 million. Well, starting April 5th, the jackpot will start at $50 million instead of $20 million. The jackpots will grow faster. They have changed the way it works a little bit. There will be a built-in multiplier on every play. Non-jackpot prizes will be boosted up to $10 million, and no more break-even prizes. In other words, if you spend $1 for a ticket, you win $1, that's a break-even. No, every win will be worth at least twice what you paid for it. The first drawing will be on Tuesday, April 8th. The ticket price is going to change to $5. And every Tuesday and Friday, the drawings will stay the same at 10 o'clock Central. You can visit mslottery.com for more details. Better odds and a better chance to win more money. It is hard to find a problem with this plan. Got a bunch of winners. The big one I want to call out, Moss Point, the Ruby 7 scratch off. It's a $5 ticket. $5 ticket. A Moss Point woman bought one of those in Pascagoula and won $77,000. I don't even know if I have the mathematical skill to compute exactly what percentage return on her $5 that is, but it's pretty decent. And you could have a story just like that to tell as well. You just got to play. Again, go to mslottery.com for more information. Up next, we've got Fox News. We've got SuperTalk Mississippi News, and then we've got hour number 2 of mornings on this Friday morning on SuperTalk Mississippi. Keep it here.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Super Talk Mississippi Mornings with Richard Cross, minus the Richard Cross today. Dave Hughes in on Friday as usual. And this hour of Mornings with or without Richard Cross brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business, it's tough. It's very tough. And if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, well, you're not alone there. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide you a full range of employer services and a custom plan that fits you and your business. You can call today at 601-206-7966 to find out more, or you can just get on the internet and go to mwgemployerservices.com. You know, it hit me as we were saying that just then. When's the last time you heard anyone use the phrase log on?
Yeah, we're all logged on already.
24/7.
Yeah, I've heard people say log out, but log on, I haven't heard that one in a while.
Yeah, nobody uses that because it's, you know.
You're being hacked whether you like it or not. Huh?
Oh, yes. They will be with you shortly. Look, you talk about that. I was looking at getting some new shoes, and my wife on her computer in our home office searched up and found some at a particular online location because we can't get them locally. Nobody has them. And she said, yeah, they've got it there. And I said, oh, let me see. And I went to Google on my computer, not a phone, typed in the name of the store, and then immediately at the top in the Google results, the first thing was an ad from that store for the exact shoe I was looking for.
It happens to me so often. Being a junkie for research like I am, it is amazing what'll pop up. Yeah. I remember it had to be a couple of years ago working on a deck or a fence in the backyard, and I had the phone on YouTube playing, and I was hammering and sawing, and I had said something to somebody, hell yeah, I'm on this section of the fence now. Within 30 seconds, I'm getting the next ad on YouTube is Miller Lumber or something over in Richland. I'm like, I've already been there. That's where I bought my lumber. I'm way ahead of you, AI. But, it's something else.
A couple of things going on. One thing I want to go back to that you mentioned last hour, almost a half hour ago, talking about the dead trees and the dead pine trees and things. We don't have to have a tornado. We don't even have to have a severe thunderstorm for that to be a problem and that to be dangerous. You still have, if the wind gets up to any decent speed, it can be a problem with a dead tree. So keep that in mind. Don't think just because we don't get the severe weather or you don't get it where you're at that it's not an issue. The latest I saw, there is a chance for about the northern fifth of Mississippi to see some severe weather on Sunday. The rest of it, it's going to rain. It's going to be wet. That's about all you can say about it.
But get prepared for it. Don't melt.
Yes, don't melt. You know, you sweet like sugar. You're going to melt. But aside from that, just keep an eye out for the trees and steer as clear of them as possible. That also brings up something else, though. And I thought someone made a very good point. You know, they are making advancements with artificial intelligence on image generation. Some of the new stuff, it's
I mean, look at Jasmine Crockett. Isn't she AI?
No.
She's real. Oh, that's a real person. Okay.
Yeah, see, the I stands for intelligence, so that immediately eliminates her. And by the way, I love the change in speech pattern from her.
Richard called that one yesterday. Yeah, he's like, man, boy, she went back to her roots pretty quick, huh?
I just assumed she went and took a seminar from Kamala Harris.
I think you can do that on Babbel now, right? You just spend about 3 hours and you're fluent.
I hope they're paying her a licensing fee because Babbel is about all she does. But AI has gotten really good. And as a result, just as an example, and they labeled it very clearly when they posted it, this is a fake. Let me say this again. This is a fake. Nothing about this is real. But they posted 2 or 3 different images of a hurricane in the Gulf approaching the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Looked exactly like the products that come out of the National Weather Service and everyone else. They were totally fake and made up. So, as we head into hurricane season, and it is different from last year because AI has now reached the point to where any person that can spell the word hurricane typing into artificial intelligence can make a very realistic path, a map, a radar image, whatever you want to call it, and post it to try to get everyone stirred up and get attention. We are very quickly, we've kind of been there for a while, but we're very quickly reaching the point to where you need to stop believing what you see online. Because there's a shocking amount of it that's just made up from scratch. So as we head into this hurricane season, I cannot believe we're already having to talk about hurricane season, but yeah, here we are. Just keep that in mind.
Seems like it happens every year about this time, huh?
You know, and I want to have a word with someone about that because it seems way too frequent. Once a year is more than we really need of that. All of and we talked about this last week, the tax reform bill, which the governor signed yesterday at 5. It's been signed. Done deal. That very much, we use this phrase all the time, sucked the oxygen out of the room when it came to this session of the Mississippi legislature, but they've done some other good stuff. One thing that is getting a little bit of attention, they passed a new law. And it's amazing that this wasn't the case already. Mail theft will now be a crime in the state of Mississippi.
Really?
Stealing somebody's mail. Now,
I thought that was a federal offense if you messed with the mailbox or something. But
it is. But to enforce a federal crime takes a federal agency or an agent of a federal agency. This way, passing it and making it a state crime as well, that lets everybody go after mail thieves. A deputy, whoever.
That's a good way to explain that, because I was like, well, okay, well, I thought, that's why I've not been stealing people's mail all these years, Thought I'd be in trouble.
With it being just a federal crime, it would take, FBI, DEA, a marshal, somebody to go after the people. With it being a state crime, well, they're all looking for you now, buddy. And that's one of those things that at first blush you look at it and you go, well, that's stupid. It's already illegal. How can it be twice as illegal? It's literally a mechanism just to open it up so that it can be prosecuted, arrests can be made more easily than they can with it just being a federal crime.
Yeah,
so
getting the feds to do something is pretty difficult. I can imagine, when it comes to something like, thieving mail. So, yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that one up.
Well, and, you've got your federal law enforcement agents. Let's see. We can go after that terrorist. We can go after that guy that's bringing in 16 tons of fentanyl. Or we can go after the guy that stole your publisher's clearinghouse entry. You got to be kind of low on the priority
That's what
list.
I was saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as you should be.
You got your free the little card you get telling you where all the deals are. Yeah, they got that. Yeah.
Mr. Marshall, they stole my coupons.
You got my coupons.
You're not going to be placed at the top of the list, and rightfully so. But this way, everybody can go after it. And maybe, as you know, the more enforcement you have, the more fear it creates in the people that are willing to try to steal this stuff, which is a deterrent, which is the entire point. So,
what did you think? And I wanted your opinion on this because I know it would be fresh, and it's not something you've talked about all week. But what is your opinion on the panhandling law, where you got to get a permit and you have a destined place that you can do your panhandling or begging or whatever? I mean, is that a discouraging mechanism, you think, making it harder? Or is this one of those things where it won't be enforced? And they're just going to take advantage of it?
To me, it's going to be somewhat difficult to enforce, but it also, to me, kind of falls under the heading because, let's face it, if somebody is out there truly in need and panhandling for a couple of bucks to buy lunch, they don't have $25 for a permit or whatever price they set on it. Yeah. So they're just going to do it anyway. But this provides the same opportunity that curfews do. Curfews exist for one reason when they're put into place after disasters or when things are going on. That gives the police probable cause to stop and find out what you're doing and move you on your way.
Good point.
That is the main functional purpose for a curfew, and I think that's going to wind up being the main functional purpose of this. Nice. Not a bad thing, but maybe not exactly the way everyone has it pictured working. Still a good thing, though. That's my take on it. You asked for it. It's your fault.
And it was a fresh take. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Hey, if nothing else, I'm here to think really weird compared to everybody else. We continue on mornings here on SuperTalk Mississippi next.
From the Venable.
Good morning. Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Coming up in the next segment after the bottom of the hour, Representative Sam Creekmore, chairman of the Public Health and Human Services Committee, as we start trailing off in the general direction of the end of the session. I got plenty of stuff regarding health care legislation we can talk to him about. Do have a couple of things nationally that I want to hit on. We have an interesting bill. Senator Mike Lee from Utah and Senator Tommy Tuberville from Alabama have introduced, they did this yesterday, a bill to abolish the TSA. No more, taking your shoes off, getting frisked, getting everything at the airport. I don't know. When's the last time you flew, Lance?
Intentionally, it's been a while. I used to enjoy it a lot until you get strip searched every time you come through. And then I was like, I think I'm going to drive.
Yes, it has gotten ridiculous. Last time I flew was last year, and it was a nightmare. because of the process and the procedure and the way they do it all is just ridiculous. What they want to do is replace the TSA with private security under government oversight. I don't know functionally what difference that'll make, but I just wanted to put it on everyone's radar that they have floated that, and that discussion is happening, and there's a bill that has been introduced, apparently, to make that happen. We'll see. Hold your breath would be my guess, because, there is nothing so permanent as a temporary solution to a problem. After 9/11, TSA and Homeland Security really kicked into high gear, and it has never backed down.
Well, this country's got to figure out how to get back to some semblance of common sense. You can't allow 12, 13 people to take advantage of your kindness, your hospitality, come over and blow something up, and then punish 300 million people because of it. And that's where the priorities are wrong. So I don't care what they do with the TSA, but figure it out, because it's not my responsibility to pay for this junk because you let a bunch of idiots come over here and blow up stuff. You need to figure that out. That's what the border problem is. Figure that out. And let's try to get back to where there is some freedom in this country. We're not being held hostage by 10 people because they may do something.
Because I'll tell you where that ends up. I don't know if you heard the Prime Minister in England, Keir Starmer. He actually tweeted this out or posted on X, whatever we're calling it this week. But this is a thing. Says by the summer, they will have confiscated all the ninja swords in England. That's his words. Number one.
That's a big deal over there, I suppose, huh?
Here's the problem. You don't get rid of the ninja swords. You get rid of the ninjas.
Yeah.
That's how you win.
Mm-hmm.
A ninja will beat you up with a toilet paper roll. I mean, it doesn't matter. So I just think that's going in the opposite direction.
I think Europe, again, I make this point and I'll make it again. Why in the world do we want to look at Europe and go, that's what we want to be? Don't you realize almost every country on the planet, the people that founded this country came from those destroyed, ravaged, tore up, busted up, blown up places? They left. And if you look at Europe today, and again, glad there are partners in trade and all this, but why is it our job to take care of Europe? You started 2 world wars. You did. And it's our job to protect you? Now, look, I'm all about, security and NATO and all that, but the reality is, what in the world do we want to emulate the values of Europe for? That's what we left. A bunch of oligarchs and fiefdoms and feudal laws that still exist over there, just more subliminal now.
If a good law-abiding ninja can't keep his sword, what kind of country are you running?
Yeah, we have guns here. It's up to the person that holds the gun. The gun doesn't do any damage. It's the one pulling the trigger. It's the idiot making bad decisions, or the good person out there knowing how to handle it and making good decisions. And you incentivize that behavior. You don't punish everybody else that's trying to do things the right way, which is the majority, Dave. You know that.
Well, the first recorded murder in history. There were 4 human beings on the planet. One of them killed his brother with a rock.
Not by this fist. Yeah, he had to find a weapon. He crazy man himself. Yeah, he
wiped out a quarter of the population by smashing Abel in the head with a rock. It doesn't matter what the tool is. A jerk is going to be a jerk. We have to deal with the jerks, not the tools.
As Thomas said, I guess they'll have to rely solely on their judo skills now and judo chops for self-defense and not the weapon itself. So, maybe we could... Yeah.
What I found interesting was Starmer said they were going to confiscate all the ninja swords. He didn't mention throwing stars, which are assault ninja swords.
Yeah, that's just a bullet, right? That's a ninja bullet.
Yes, that's a ninja sword with a switch. Mm-hmm. But Thomas is laughing right now. But
he's on one this morning, too. Thanks, Thomas. Love you, bro.
One other thing I did want to point out, and we're going to file this under the heading of an interesting coincidence. As DOGE is hard at work in the federal government, finding ways, shutting down all these ridiculous expenditures and checks that are being written to various agencies, and they have for all practical purposes, purged the USAID organization, which means the flow of money has stopped to the non-governmental organizations that were just getting checks. Total coincidence that Just Stop Oil has announced that they're done as of next month. That's the group that keeps making the news because they keep going into museums and throwing soup on paintings, or they go out and glue their hands down on the road to protest evil oil. I'm sure it is a coincidence that right after the flow of money out of USAID stopped, they're shutting down. Total coincidence.
Yeah, well, and again, USAID, whatever it is, you're talking about soft influence. And now you're going to start hearing stories about how China and how Russia are using soft influence. Money, in other words, buying friends. The things that we've been doing for so long with your taxpayers' dollars. And we think that China and Russia using soft influence is a bad thing for us. How about we let Russia and China break their bank doing it? We've done that already. Look at the debt. Where do you think the money's been going? I mean, Doge is kind of proven a point to some of it. It would take 100 years to figure out where all the taxpayer money's gone and what nook and cranny and what garbage pit we've sent it to. And we're going, let's worry about China and Russia sending some of their limited money to go buy influence, which doesn't work very well if we've paid attention. Let them waste their money on it for a minute,
Well, our situation monetarily right now, to me, it reminds me of an old truism in the self-help industry when they talk about people who run around trying to help their family members, help their friends, help their coworkers, help everybody. And the expression is, you can't fill someone else's glass from an empty pitcher. You have to make sure your pitcher is in good shape before you start helping other people. We have been filling every glass on the planet except our own. Well,
enough so that, 180,000 Chinese nationals crossed the border, and recently numbers up, Russian nationals crossing the borders up. A lot of the monies that you send overseas, you wonder how it gets used. This is some of the ways. I mean, it comes back in. They go, hey, why don't you go over there and do what we need you to do? All that money they sent us, here you go. Why don't you go back over there? And, all this, I think it's a good idea to go through each and every agency and every department and find the things that don't add up and try to change them. And for some reason, that seems to really be upsetting one party very much, and the other seems to be all for it. So I mean, it's
when you start investigating how much free money is being handed out, the people that are receiving free money get really upset about it.
Oh yeah, exactly. Pay attention to who's really upset about stopping the waste, stopping the corruption, and stopping the duplication, and all this mess. And look who's upset about it. And pay attention come election day when it happens, because they're going to change their tune all of a sudden.
That's like the situation with the tariffs. The one thing that has already done, they don't go into effect until next week on Wednesday. But the one thing it has done has illustrated something. You've got Canada, who has been applying up to 300% tariffs on dairy products that they import from America. But now we're putting 25% tariffs on things, and we're horrible, and they're cutting off from us forever.
Nobody's saying you pull back from the world, but the reality is you got to get back to even playing field with the world, or you're getting taken advantage of.
Yes, exactly. When we come back, Representative Sam Creekmore joins us on mornings here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Keep it here.
Brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Wake up! Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Dave Hughes in for Richard Cross on this Friday. And joining us now, he's the chairman of the Public Health and Human Services Committee, Representative Sam Creekmore from Union County. Mr. Chairman, how you doing this morning? Thanks for joining us.
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Doing fantastic so far. It's Friday. There is no such thing as a bad Friday, I don't think.
It's Friday and the session's almost over.
You sound so sad, Chairman. You really did. This has been one heck of a session, hasn't it?
It really has. It's been good and bad and exciting and tragic sometimes.
It has been a roller coaster ever since January, but we are finally coming to the end, I think, getting close to it. And I've used this phrase many times, we all have, that the tax reform legislation sucked all the oxygen out of the room. That's all anyone talked about. All anyone wanted to talk about, it seemed like, but there were a lot of other things going on that needed some attention as well. And as the chairman of the Public Health and Human Services Committee, this is an opportunity to get some of that out there. And let's talk about what did or did not happen in this session with your committee and the things that it focuses on.
Well, you're right, Dave. I mean, people would ask me about what's going on with the tax, and I was like, there's so much going on in public health. I rely on a lot of my leadership to help me with the tax. I'm focused on public health. So you're right. We did do a lot in public health, and CON reform, which hopefully will go to the governor soon, was one of the major things we got accomplished in public health.
And a huge round of applause is deserved for that. We've needed to reform that for quite a long time now, I think.
Yeah, CON was established in New York in the 1960s, and then in '87, the federal government mandated it through the states, and Mississippi has never changed certificate of need as far as healthcare goes since the 80s, since it was a mandate from the federal government. And this is the first year that we've had significant change in certificate of need in the state of Mississippi, if we can get this bill across the governor's desk.
Now, what specifically changed? How is it being modified once it's signed?
Well, the House bill was very broad in its changes. And, of course, when it goes to the Senate, things change. And it's not a bad thing. And the bill we got going to the governor, number one, it doubles the capital expenditure thresholds. So there's three levels. There's clinical, non-clinical, and equipment. And those thresholds were set so that if you wanted to buy a MRI machine, you had to apply for a certificate of need. Well, that went from $1.5 million to $3 million. So if you're buying a machine that's less than $3 million, you don't have to apply to the Department of Health for a certificate of need. If it's less than $3 million, that really helps our rural hospitals. It sounds silly, and it has its need, but anything under that threshold, you don't have to apply for the certificate of need. It also, we did a study for dialysis, for psychiatric care, and that did not make it through the bill, but with that study would be done by the Department of Health, and those recommendations will come down, and next year we'll be able to hopefully lift those thresholds for CON as well. And then there was UMMC, and I love UMMC. They're very important to the state of Mississippi, but they have a CON exemption, an academic exemption, so they don't have to apply for CONs, and that's wonderful. This bill limits that academic exemption to just the main campus. So any of their properties, which they have several outside the main campus in Jackson, they have to now apply for a CON. So those are some of the major things we've done.
Well, and you mentioned in there where you talked about dialysis, but you also talked about mental health. Do you think this is a fair statement, Chairman? Mental health in Mississippi needs a lot of attention.
It does, and we've given it a lot of attention, and it's the process for mental health has certainly improved over the last 3 years. And the psychiatric CON I believe, will be lifted over the next few years, but we have improved in mental health in Mississippi,
which was desperately needed. But we've been talking about that for a while. We've been talking about the certificate of need reform for a long time now. And why do you think it takes so long to get to a point to where we take action on some of these things after they've been discussed for years? And it seems like just about everybody agrees we need to do something, but it takes a while to get there.
It does. And that's part of the process of the legislature it takes. And I didn't realize this when I got in the legislature, how long it takes to get something approved and done. And that's not always a bad thing because it has to be studied by so many people. But in terms of mental health, 3 years ago we passed 1222, which mandated mental health first aid for all law enforcement agencies. We also changed the process of civil commitment. Last year, we did the civil commitment where you had to have a pre-evaluation. That used to be the third step. Now it's the first step, which just makes sense that it should be the first step. Then this year in 1404, as far as the civil commitment goes, if you're admitted to an acute psychiatric care hospital, we changed that process where you don't have to have the pre-evaluation because you've already been admitted to acute psychiatric care. Having said all that, the time that a person's that's been put in jail has been cut in more than half in the state of Mississippi. And 3 years ago, that was 3 to 5 days. Now it's less than a day, and it's against the law, period, to be put in jail for mental health issues unless you've committed a crime. And so we are improving, although you're right, the process is extremely slow to get this done. But we have seen some significant improvements in mental health, and we got a long way to go. And we're not, as far as the legislature goes, we're not paying attention. We are paying attention to what's going on in mental health, and we're trying extremely hard. I work personally with mental health every day, pretty much as far as chair of public health, and we're constantly evaluating and trying to make things as efficient as possible. And we're also limited by funds. It's everything, and rightfully so should be evaluated financially, and we're doing that.
Well, and it's obvious that you are working on it and you are paying attention to it because we're seeing progress. And, sometimes, especially with what you were talking about, with how slow the process can be sometimes to get something through the legislature, especially when you're changing. I think you've made some good progress, and I know you're not done yet on that subject either, just like all the rest of them.
We're not done, and Dave, and I had a meeting with my vice chair, Kevin Felsher, who's done an incredible job in the public health space and many other spaces. But what are we doing going forward? This session's almost over, and we've got a long list. But our goal is, as in so many categories in Mississippi, we're 50th, 49th, 48th. We want to keep climbing down that ladder and get to much lower numbers in public health. And so, we're planning for next year's session and what we can do to make public health and the state of Mississippi better.
Well, and I tell you what, if you can hang on through the break and stick with us through the next segment, can you do that?
Yes, sir.
Do you have time? We'll get into that and your wish list of what you'd like to see moving forward from the various things that your committee deals with after the break, because we're about to come up on the break, and I don't want you to get cut off halfway through, because if you're like me, it's the end of the week, and especially after this session, you're going to lose your train of thought during the commercial.
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to hold on. Thank you.
Been that kind of year so far. Representative Sam Creekmore, the chairman of the Public Health and Human Services Committee, on the air with us, and we'll continue talking to him, find out what he's got on his radar scope for the future. Next session, we'll do that when we return on Mornings here on Super Talk Mississippi. Keep it here.
Baby, I got to be moving out of here. I might go out to California, I might go down to Georgia, I might stay here.
From the Venable.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
She traveled all around, all across this country. Met a lot of people, made a lot of friends. She got the feeling of the swamp playing around through blood. She going back home, but she don't know when.
Welcome back. Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi. On the air with us, Chairman Sam Creekmore of the Public Health and Human Services Committee in the House of Representatives. And I made you stop, I made you pause, because we dealt with what happened this year that, let's be honest, didn't get a lot of press because of the tax reform legislation. Now let's look forward. As you said, we're getting really close to the end of this session. What would you like to see happen next session with your committee and what it focuses on?
Yes, sir. Well, part of this session, which will spill into next year and many years after, is the opioid settlement fund. The Attorney General entered a lawsuit a couple of years ago, and we're starting to see funds come into the state of Mississippi. It's around $203 million at the moment, and that is money that comes in for opioid substance abuse treatments in the state. And so we created a committee that will study and recommend programs and services that will help people who are suffering from drug abuse and opioid issues. And so that's going to be significant in the state of Mississippi as far as, and that spills also, as you know, Dave, into mental health issues. So we'll be able to disperse that money, and I'm hoping next week we can even get some of that money to some of the people that are on the field doing work right now. So that's something that's part of this session and will be part of the next few sessions going forward. And as part of that, there is a drug, a natural drug called ibogaine that we'll be studying going forward that has significant increases in your substance abuse space that helps people overcome addiction. This is not new to the world, but new to Mississippi and a lot of Mississippians. This process, so this drug could make significant changes in the substance abuse space. So that's one of the things we're studying going forward, and this opioid settlement committee could have significant changes going forward in mental health and drug abuse, people who are suffering from those issues.
Well, I have to say that's a great problem to have to deal with. What do we do with all this money? But I'm assuming that it is targeted funds that are coming from that lawsuit that have to go towards drug abuse and things of that nature, right?
It's part of the settlement. 15% goes to cities and counties. 15% goes to the government, which is, of course, the legislature, and then 70% goes to this has to be distributed by the legislature through the opioid settlement committee, which also is, at the end of the day, is approved by the legislature. But the key to me is that 15% that goes directly to the legislature, and that's what I'm talking about, that we could immediately get to some of these people and some of these services that are treating people right now. And there are so many nonprofits, there's so many programs that we can get into the schools. We passed 2 years ago a drug education for our schools. This could help make that program even stronger. We appropriated, I think, $2 million for that, and that is, you can imagine that does not go far across a state with 3 million people and 685 schools districts. So that could be significant going forward.
That was a start, basically, Chairman. That's about all you can say for two. It's good. It was a great thing, but now we get to bolster that and build that program, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And there are many peer-to-peer programs, and even in your area, there's Hope Squad that's done a great job on the coast area and South Mississippi, but it can be inflated even more and promoted across the state. And then there's others like Thriveway that where children help mentor other children going forward and teach them about you don't have to do certain things that promote. I mean, it's okay to not have to experiment with drugs or to continue to go down a downward path. So these are new but good programs that we can implement across our state, and that's some of the things we're looking at in their youth. You know, and as Dr. Edney, our state health officer, says, you know, education is part of it. When they get through the education, then when they become my problem, they're adults and contributing or not contributing to the welfare of the state.
Chairman, I hate to step in on you, but we're up against a hard break in the news. But I appreciate your time this morning so much, and check back with us and keep us updated on what you're doing, okay?
Thanks, Dave.
Anytime, sir, anytime. News.
Your home. Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
All right.
That's the right bumper music right there. Last hour of Mornings without Richard Cross today, brought to you by MWG Employer Services. You can call 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com for more information. That was the correct music because that was ZZ Top. And we've got someone who's going to spend some quality time with ZZ Top. The executive director of Mississippi Delta Blues Museum, Shelley Ritter, joins us. How are you this morning?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing fantastic. You guys, I consider this, I'm sorry, I'm an 80s kid. I went through high school in the early 80s. ZZ Top was a big deal, and you've got a big deal coming to the Delta Blues Museum.
Yeah, we do.
Well, tell us about it. What do we have coming up on Wednesday, April 9th?
All right, on Wednesday, April the 9th at 2 p.m., the Delta Blues Museum Band, which is made up of our students, will be performing on the stage, and then Billy Gibbons will be presented with some honors from the city of Clarksdale and the state of Mississippi for the role that they've played in the development of the Delta Blues Museum, which is the world's first museum devoted entirely to blues. And then immediately following that public event, there's a private ticketed event that will happen inside the Delta Blues Museum, and that includes a panel discussion about Muddy Waters between Charlie Musselwhite and Billy Gibbons, because April is Muddy Waters Month at the Delta Blues Museum. And then after they kind of chat about Muddy Waters, we'll have some refreshments and photo opportunities and just kind of hang out and enjoy the exhibits at the museum.
Well, and talk a little bit about Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top and the involvement in getting the museum going, because I know a lot of times people that don't really pay attention, if you ask me, are thinking, ZZ Top, what does that have to do with blues? They've got everything to do with blues. They owed everything to the blues, didn't they?
Right. Well, they were, they are blues fans and were heavily influenced by the blues. And in 1988, Billy Gibbons came to Clarksdale and the Delta Blues Museum, and at that time the museum was still located in the library. And the museum was about 9 years old because we were founded in 1979. And, something's going on with my phone. Okay. We were founded in 1979, and they went out to Stovall Farms because a tornado had just come through. And the Muddy Waters cabin, which was then located out there, it's now located within the walls of the Delta Blues Museum, had been, affected by the tornado. So it was kind of torn up, and they took a plank that had been blown off the cabin and created the Muddy Wood guitar. And then they went on the Muddy Wood tour, which was dedicated to raising funds and awareness of the Delta Blues Museum.
Which is fantastic. And I do have a question. Yes, it was founded in 79. It was just in the library for the first 9-10 years.
It was in the smaller library, and then it moved to the Carnegie Public Library. So yeah, we've moved a lot.
My question is, and this seems obvious to a Mississippi boy. I was born and raised in this state. 79 seems like it's been around forever, but that to me raises the question: what took so long? The blues are so hugely important in this state. They should have done something before then, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's a great question. But what was going well in Clarksdale? They were documented as early as 1902 by an archaeologist. But in the 70s, people from all over the world were coming to Clarksdale and looking for blues monuments, blues history, et cetera, et cetera. So where do you go? You go to the library. And enough people came that it prompted Sid Graves and Bill Ferris to start the Delta Blues Museum.
That makes a lot of sense. And you said, in addition to Billy, you've got Charlie Musselwhite is going to be there, another huge name in Mississippi blues up in the Delta.
Yeah. And he and his wife Henrietta have moved to Clarksdale, so he's a hometown guy.
Fantastic. Now, this is a big event. You said that the round table, if you will, the panel discussion is going to be a ticketed event. The part of it before that, with the band playing and the presentation and everything, is that just open to the public?
Yeah, that's a public thing on the Delta Blues Museum stage.
So you can just show up.
Exactly.
I hate to ask this because, well, it's that time of year, so I have to ask it. Are there alternate venue plans in the event that it's raining?
Yes, we are working on those, and it probably won't be a public event if it rains.
Yeah, well, you'll run out of room really quickly because I would hope you're going to have thousands of people show up for this. You should, because it is a big deal, and if we don't remember where we came from, it's going to be really hard to get where we're going.
Exactly. And, as Willie Dixon said, the blues is the roots, the rest is the fruits.
Oh, that's good. I love that. That's fantastic. Now, if somebody is going to be in that area, maybe not necessarily even on the day for this event, but they would like to stop in and see the museum, where is it at and what are the hours?
Our hours are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we are located in the renovated freight depot in downtown Clarksdale. And we have a really cool address. It's number 1 Blues Alley Lane.
You pulled some strings to make that street name happen, didn't you?
Who knows?
Oh yeah, no, I've got your number. Good job, well done. So if people can stop by there, and you said 10 until 5. Is that Monday through Friday?
Monday through Saturday.
Okay, Monday through Saturday. And
if there's a festival going on, we open on Sundays, usually from 1 to 5. But count on Monday through Saturday for sure.
And I say that because people might be up in the area during the event, but if they're not, they might want to make the trip because, this is an important thing, and you've got some really cool exhibits in there, don't you?
We really do, but I might be a little biased. But we've got the largest artifact we have is the Muddy Waters cabin. We also have the Muddy Wood guitar, but we have some of John Lee Hooker's guitars. We have an exhibit on Sun House, Robert Johnson, all the blues greats, and a huge focus on many of the musicians who came from Clarksdale and Coahoma County.
Well, I am talking to you from my home county of Pike, so I have to ask, I'm almost contractually obligated at this point, you got any Bo Diddley stuff?
We have a proclamation from the legislature about Bo Diddley.
Because, he was...
I am not looking at it, so I can't tell you who introduced it. But it's a fun thing to read, for sure.
Well, he was a Macomb boy, so,
yes,
we've got to... just like me, I'm a Macomb boy. So, yeah, I want to make sure he's represented. That's the whole reason I asked this. It's a little personal interest, Shelley, so I had to make sure that Bo Diddley was represented up there. Because that is the thing. The Delta is the home of the blues, but it kind of spread out over the whole state.
Oh, yeah, you can't contain it. It really... Blues changed music all over the world. Look at Porgy and Bess, Rhapsody in Blue, even blanking on Mr. Rogers from Meridian. He was the blue yodeler.
Yes, Jimmy.
He was a country music guy.
Yeah, Jimmy Rogers.
Jimmy Rogers, thank you, yes.
And
more coffee.
It spreads out to rock and roll. Elvis, of course, famously, but most, if not all, rock and roll. The music you listen to, whatever your favorite music is, it came from the blues. And in most cases, it came from the Mississippi Blues. So that makes the Mississippi Delta Blues Museum extremely important. April 9th, that's a Wednesday. Billy Gibbons with ZZ Top is going to be there. Charlie Musselwhite as well. It's going to be a great event, and everybody should go and check it out. Shelley, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about this.
Absolutely, Alex. Thank you.
And you need to work on your Bo Diddley collection. Again,
all right, help me out with it.
I am also biased, so yeah, we got to work on that. We'll see what we can do there. We will continue on mornings here on Super Talk Mississippi right after this.
From the Venable.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
I just passed a Jimmy and a white. I've been a passing everything in sight. 6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight. But it seems like a month since I kissed my baby goodbye. I could have a lot of women, but I'm not like a some other guy. I could find one to hold me tight, but I can never make believe it's all right.
I hear you humming along.
Gonna make it home tonight.
You got to curl your lip, man.
I love Dave Dudley, man.
You got to curl your lip. It's not Elvis, but it's adjacent.
Yeah, he looks like the guy that would probably drive the bus too. You know, I mean,
yeah,
he just has that look like he's like, go, boys, hop on, let's go. We got to make it. 6 days on the road, gonna make it home tonight.
And who was it that remade that and had a big hit with it?
Oh, man, that's a great question, because I almost cut that one up, but I'm like, I got to go with Dave Dudley on that. I'll look it up, because you're right. I jumped over that one because it wasn't the original.
They remade it. The first name that comes to mind is Rascal Flatts, which is not correct. That is wrong.
Sawyer Brown, and they did a great job. It's a great one. I actually have it cut. I just didn't, you don't want too many of the same thing. But, yeah, it's a little different, but it's good. You can't go wrong with Sawyer Brown on anything, though.
No. Come on. It's a great group. Great band.
Very underrated.
Tell you another one I actually saw back in, what would that have been, late 80s, when they were really hot, was Exile.
Exile, huh?
Exile. They had some really good country songs.
I'm gonna dig that one out. Then thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, I saw them. It was a little small, intimate setting, and it was a fantastic show. They did a great job with it. All right.
Exhale.
Yeah. You know something good is coming. I don't know if you heard about this. The talk right now is about the measles outbreak, which is spreading. We have no cases in Mississippi that have been confirmed or reported. Texas is the biggest problem there. There are other problems that you might not see coming. A guy in Michigan passed away in January from rabies. You don't hear about that a lot, right? Well, the story gets weird, so buckle up. As you know, rabies, once the symptoms start showing, it's too late. At that point, the fatality rate is way over 90% once the symptoms show up. Well, he passed away in January. They got to digging. And the month before, in December, at the University of Toledo Medical Center in Ohio, he had received an organ transplant. They got to researching it. The organ they transplanted into this man gave him rabies. It apparently had it in there. Said this is just vanishingly rare. Not really ever happened before. The organ was donated from somebody else. That person obviously had rabies in their system. It got transferred to this person and took their life. What I'm trying to say is, when it's your time, apparently it's your time. No matter what. It's just an absolutely horrible story, but just wanted to throw that out there because it's so unusual. Because that doesn't happen. Having said that, do not, under any circumstances, play around with it if you think you've been around something that could have given you that. Just wanted to. That was a real upper of a story. I didn't start the morning with that story on purpose. Because,
somebody's eating breakfast or something.
Yeah, let's not set our mood with that one for the day, right? I have a Mississippi story that I do want to mention here. A man in Summerall. Two guys went into a store in November. They've caught one of them now. Been charged with felony shoplifting. They went in and stole a steel chainsaw. Okay, so far, this is just the way things seem to be going in the world right now. The chainsaw was valued at $1,659. I have a couple of chainsaws, but apparently I'm really cheap and had a coupon.
Yeah, $1,600, you said?
$1,659.
What are they cutting, redwoods?
It's laser powered. I don't know what it is about it, and maybe that's what they cost now. Because
say, hey, chainsaw, go do some work, and it goes over there and does work. Yeah.
That you have put your finger on it, calling all the way back to the 6 o'clock hour. I'm sure it's an AI powered chainsaw. And that may very well be what they cost now, because heaven knows the price of everything has increased, and I haven't shopped for one in years.
What do you think? I mean, like if AI got infected with DEI, you would try to crank it, turn it on and get it to saw a tree down, and it would hug it, instead or something. Or take all of its clothes off and protest.
And then dye its handle purple. Why not?
Yeah, Thomas, steels be high, buddy. I've got a few steel products. They're not cheap, but they definitely work well. Yeah.
No, they're worth it. Boy, there's an unplanned endorsement from Three Directions.
Yeah, where are you, Steel? Send the money.
Yes, we accept check, we accept money order, we accept.
And title sponsorships, too. If you want to hop in and, we'll find a spot for you. We've got you covered.
Yeah, unfortunately, they've had to eat the cost of one, because I don't know if they got it back when they caught the guy, and the other guy is still out floating around loose. So, yeah, but that kind of stuff is continuously going on, which brings me to something that continues to bother me. I keep seeing reports from all over the place. One of the big things that we've had a major increase of in the state of Mississippi for the last couple of years, 3 years, is burglaries, specifically automobile burglaries. I have seen so many people and heard of so many people who had their firearms stolen from their vehicle overnight. And then they come back and say, well, yeah, they did. I probably should have locked it.
Probably.
I have a two-part comment here. 2 parts. Number 1, don't leave your firearm in your vehicle overnight unattended, unless you just really don't want to have it anymore. Number 2, always lock your vehicle. I don't know if you've seen this, Lance. Plenty of Ring camera footage and things like that right here in Mississippi, where some guy comes creeping up at 3 o'clock in the morning and eases up under the carport or into the garage and just walks around and tries all 4 door handles. They're all 4
nonchalantly.
Locked. Yeah, but they're all 4 locked. And then he just wanders away. They're looking for the low-hanging fruit. They are looking for the people who will leave their car unlocked with their firearm in it overnight or their valuables. So don't be that person. Your chances of having something stolen go way down when you do that. Now, that's obviously not analogous to what happened with this store. They just walked in. The store was open for business. They just walked in and stole a chainsaw.
It says, Sistrunk Mobile told, it says it's likely a diamond tooth saw, like why it's so expensive. Makes sense, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And cutting glass or something.
That caught my attention, though. I was like, man, I'm glad mine's still working fine, because that's pricey. But then again, everything is pricey. Let me ask you this, finance man.
One comment. I always love it when people say, well, you should have done this, and this, and this, and this. So it's my fault they're thieves.
Yeah,
it's my
that's
fault.
The problem.
When I get, look, I get it. You got to lock your stuff and all that, but it's not my fault that people have chosen to be criminals. So let's get that part straight. It may be my fault that the door was left open, but I can't solve the other side of that riddle. That there are obviously a lot of people out there that like stealing your stuff.
Yes,
there's an outlet to sell it
everywhere.
too. And hey, guess what? There's an outlet to sell it too. So somebody else is, involved in this.
Let me reframe that just a little bit to make the point from a different direction, though. It's not your fault that the dog isn't chained up and is rabid. It is your fault if he bites you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have got so close to him. You shouldn't have given him the opportunity. You can prevent a lot of these problems if you just use your head. It's still the dog's fault and the owner of the dog. You're not the jerk in that situation, but I'm sorry. Again, back to what I was saying last hour. In the Bible, there were 4 people. One of them murdered another one. There have been jerks since time immemorial. There have been people who are looking to take advantage of others and cause them harm, whether it be financial, whether it be emotional, whether it be financial. So you have to take necessary precautions to look out for it, because those people have been here since day one
Ain't going nowhere either, and you're not going to solve that riddle.
Right. They're never going to go away.
Yeah, they make prisons for those places.
Yeah, but they only got so many beds, and we got way more than we got space to put them in.
Yeah. Thank goodness we've been getting rid of some of them, too, sending them back to their house.
Yes.
That's apparently a problem, too. A federal judge didn't like that. Wants to hold on to the criminals.
Yeah, the federal presidential judge. Don't get me started on that. We will continue here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi as I continue to get grumpier and grumpier. I'm becoming closer to my grandpa every day, and I'll continue that journey with you next. Keep it here.
Deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi.
What's the frequency? Can it is your vintage?
I always think of Tom Brokaw when I hear this song.
That was Dan Rather, I think.
No, that's what I meant. Yeah, Dan Rather. See, thank you. You're so smart.
If you don't remember that story, he says a guy accosted him in an alleyway in New York, and that's what he was asking him. What's the frequency, Kenneth?
He kept saying, yeah, what's the frequency? Kenneth, what's the frequency? And he's like, what are you talking about, man?
Dan Rather, by the way, I had to look it up, still with us. He's 93.
Yeah. And I mean, that was a big deal. That a lot of people didn't believe him for the longest time, and then they actually confirmed that it did happen. And I think there were two people. One was looking at the other one, going, "Kenneth, what's the frequency?" And like nobody knew what was going on with that. But great song, that came as a result of that. And he actually got up on stage and performed it with REM. He's terrible. He's a terrible singer and a terrible dancer. But what do you expect, huh?
That is the least surprising thing I ever heard about Dan Rather.
I would wonder how many mainstream news folks aren't a little stuffy, maybe a little difficult to get into a groove, maybe a dance. I don't know. They're probably good at a cocktail, but loosening up and dancing, I don't know.
Now, let me just say, and this is, I don't know if this is just the skill set that leads them into this part of it. Yes, anchors, definitely. You get that impression that they're stuffy. The guy that anchors ABC News now, the ABC Evening News, Dan Muir.
Yeah. Muir.
Yes.
Isn't that the name of the...
Or David. It's David Muir.
Yeah, it's the same. The name of Robert Redford's character, Muir, when he, when he's in there with... What's the one? Spy Game. Yeah, he's Muir.
Next time you see him, either a photograph or it also is perfectly relevant if you're watching him and he's talking and he's moving. My wife made this observation and I cannot unsee it now. I said, "Come here, look at this guy." She stepped over, she looked at it and she said, "Oh, that's Sam the Eagle from the Muppets."
He has the look, yes. That one of the funny things about him is I really enjoyed when he was doing the investigative reporting on the fires, and they caught him with the bobby pins, on his back to make his jacket look really tight and buff. That you got to do that these days. You got to have on your skinny stuff, or you're not cool.
But the anchors, yes, they're all stuffy. Weathermen, on the other hand,
no, they party is what I've heard. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's the fun folks.
That's what I've heard from people in this business. Like, the weather people. They're the fun. It's like if there's a group of people that you ever want to just like hang out and have a good time. I worked for the School of Pharmacy at Ole Miss years ago as a fundraiser. The nicest people, the most fun people. I've never met one in a bad mood. It did these events where you'd go down and do the beach for the convention and all that. Had so much fun with them. And I want to tell you guys, y'all were so welcoming when I was there in that role. But man, you're talking about a fun group of people. Pharmacists, they are great. And I've always heard proctologists have the best stories. So, I had to stop there. And like one of my cousins told me a couple of them. He was a dentist. He goes, "Yeah, I got a buddy that's a proctologist." And he'd tell me a few of those stories. And I literally, as a kid, would almost like, pass out laughing so hard. Like I didn't know that was real until
I think probably if I had to guess, all of the stories are great, but the ends vary.
Yeah, Dr. Jellyfinger.
Really?
You got that's Fletch, man.
I slide the second-hand backhanded pun in, just trying to scoop one past everybody. Yeah. And then you come in with Dr. Jellyfinger.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm a Fletch lover. You know me. So,
holy cow. I didn't realize we were out of subtlety. I know it's the end of the month. We've used it all, but, we might need to place an order at this point.
The Underhills have left, senor.
Did you hear that in the 80s, the CIA, some of the declassified stuff that's coming out, the CIA found the Ark of the Covenant?
Yes, yeah. That's what they say, huh?
Well, they say that it was part of their remote viewing program, and they found it. Here's an interesting twist to this, okay? Some people don't know this. I've told a couple of people, and they go, wait, what? Yes. At Mar-a-Lago, President Trump has a replica of the Ark of the Covenant.
Wow.
Supposedly, they used 6 pounds of gold. I mean, it's like big. It's like the size it's supposed to be. Got it on a pedestal. What if? You know where I'm going with this, right? Mm-hmm. What if we knew where I was all this time, he just pulled one on everybody on the planet, and that's the actual Ark of the Covenant he's got sitting there.
Yeah, he didn't let you know that or us, but yeah, somewhere there's at Lloyd's of London there is a receipt for reinsurance of the insurance for the asset, and it would be like $1 trillion, $2 trillion, on the hook. That's why he's always like, I never went bankrupt. You kidding me? I got the Ark of the Covenant over here.
Yeah, everything's fine.
I need a loan. Hey, I got the Ark of the Covenant, man. That's my collateral.
Who really knows it? If that were the case, President Trump and whichever burly guys he paid to pick it up and tote it in, because 6 pounds of gold is a lot of stuff, and that's just the coating around it, obviously.
Reminds me of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. We have top men on it. Which men? Top men. And then they, just pan through the warehouse full of things that we wish we knew about, but we never will. Maybe this is one of them we'll actually get to learn a little about, the Ark of the Covenant, huh?
Well, here's now see you've sent me down this entire random train of thought, which is not unusual for me. If President Trump has the Ark of the Covenant, and you mentioned Indiana Jones. Remember what happened when they opened the Ark of the Covenant in the movie? Everyone that looked at it, their face melted, basically.
Didn't turn out good for them. Yeah.
How would President Trump be able to resist the urge to say, get Nancy Pelosi on the phone. I got something she needs to take a look at.
I think she's what actually flew out of the Ark of the Covenant. I think that.
No! She flew out trying to stop the little girl from Kansas from reaching the wizard. That was a totally different thing.
Okay, my bad. Yeah, I think she just looked real similar to that goblin. That
Yeah,
it looked real pretty at first, and then you get a little closer and take the makeup off, and what was that?
You're not wrong. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know, apparently this story broke yesterday. They know where the Ark of the Covenant is.
Good.
This is...
Now we can use it, right?
This is information that's useful to absolutely no one. I freely admit that, but it's Friday. It's late in the show. I'm not sure what you were expecting.
Yeah, well, I like it. That is relevant, especially going into the weekend. So if something happens, we know now that it's probably the Ark of the Covenant that they switched on.
If you start to hear trumpets from the direction of Florida, you'll know what's going on.
The 4 horsemen show up in the sky. Oh, goodness. Not now. I was doing so well in life.
This year is busy enough already. We just got income tax reform passed. Now?
Yeah, I mean, you got everybody's getting their refunds, and they're parlaying it in Sweet 16 games. So, I mean, that's one of my theories, is that's why March Madness is now, is to reward everyone who filed their income taxes early, so now you can bet your money and hopefully triple it, quadruple it, or give it back one way or the other. Remember, you don't lose anything, you just hand it to somebody else.
Yes, it's not lost. It's just
we know where it is.
Somebody else found it.
That's right.
That's the way that always works. I mentioned earlier about the Smithsonian and President Trump signing the executive order yesterday. And that's going to touch on a lot of things. That's going to touch on the statues in parks, in national parks, federal parks, signage, plaques, all sorts of things. Not just the Smithsonian Institute, the building that we know of and the organization that we know of, but all parts of it are included in that executive order, which means 10 years later, we're back to arguing over statues again.
Yeah. Well, I just want them to tell me what's in the, over there above the Snake River in the Grand Canyon, what they sealed up those many years, they say. A bunch of Egyptian treasures and all that, as the legend goes.
Yeah, and I've seen pictures of that. That is weird. I just assumed that was like a getaway apartment for Evel Knievel.
That place, you just jump right into it, man. I mean, if you could jump the Snake River Canyon, that should be your abode. I mean,
yeah.
Where are the Daredevils now? Remember that Travis Pastrana guy was doing all kind of stuff with Red Bull, and you had the guy jump out of the whatever, the capsule, and parachuted down to Earth from outer space. Bumgardner, I think was his name. We haven't seen those guys lately. What's happened to the risk takers and thrill seekers, man? They were doing some cool stuff there for a little while.
They're in crypto.
Yeah, everybody's retired. They're just gambling in the markets now.
Yeah, that's the risk.
It's not safer now, probably, but it's probably better for their health, huh?
But, boy, you could lead. Luckily, we're almost out of time for the show today. Only one more segment to go. You could lead me down a psychological rabbit hole about why we don't have daredevils anymore. Yeah. Societally, we're not fertile ground for those to grow at the moment.
Nor inspiration or creativity. Name the last monument or anything big and fancy built. Yeah.
When your fight or flight response is triggered by a trip to the grocery store, it's kind of hard to compete. Is the short version of that. Final segment of Mornings on this Friday morning. On the way next.
From the Venable.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Woke up this morning funny feeling.
Just as we were going into the break, kind of confirming what we knew already, Dixon wasn't able to join us. He's busy because it's alert season. We still have Ole Miss men and women playing. We've got baseball. We've got bad weather coming in. He's got his hands full. Just sent out the email that the Saturday Ole Miss game moved to today. Going to play a doubleheader.
Let's play two.
Yeah, no Ole Miss baseball on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, for Ole Miss. Now, we don't know yet on Southern or Mississippi State, but, with the weather the way it looks, it could be a weird weekend trying to make plans if you're going to be in any of those locations. Hopefully, though, they'll pop out the umbrella and just put it over the whole stadium and you can play some ball.
I would, just looking at the forecast and looking at the system that's moving in, and, this thing isn't going to just blow through like we've seen in recent weeks with systems coming in. The rain, we're going to have a chance for some rain later today, and then we're going to have a chance of rain every day through Tuesday. So I would probably go into the weekend expecting some changes. If you're planning to go see your team, whoever it is, high school, whoever, play baseball, double check to make sure there have been no schedule changes before you load everybody up in the car to head over.
Yeah. The catering and all that, double check. That stuff gets expensive, folks. We know that.
Yeah.
And any of you make that commitment, you guys are awesome. I played sports. You can't do it without the fans. Kind of sounds a little odd when you're there and there's nobody there. Played a few of those games, so crickets are louder than everything else. But no, the fans make it all go around. So be careful, double check everything, and don't waste your money on a grazing tray if you're going to be watered down there.
That's going to be a lot for you to eat by yourself exactly. on the couch at home.
Doesn't taste near as good at home,
You mentioned that, and it is so true. If you've ever played sports, or if you've ever been in the band or a band, or you've been in theater, or you've done anything in front of a group of other people, any kind of activity, there is an enormous difference between doing it for an empty room or an empty stadium and doing it in front of a big crowd. It changes the way you react. And you know this from when you played. When you've got the stands are full, everybody is cheering, going nuts, all involved in the game, it gives you a different kind of energy than if you just show up to play. Doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'll say that I've had some great opportunities around the country to play in front of amazing fans. There's none better. In my experience on the road. Now, I can't, not talking about at home, but Mississippi State's baseball fans, goodness gracious, man. I mean, and you'll never have as much fun as a player just getting to go and be a part of that. And, it's just an amazing experience. It really is to have that right here in our backyard. Then Ole Miss has grown so well, and then Southern Miss, and, as far as the big programs go. And they all, the thing is that those three programs together combined their attendance. There's no other three programs in any state that even come close to the aggregate. And that speaks volumes to a state the size of Mississippi and the emphasis we place on baseball, but the success also, demanding success. And I think that's a really wonderful thing. People should demand success, excellence. And we get away from that, and what is the result? What you're looking at all over the place,
Well, and the thing is, and you're getting dangerously close to starting back up a discussion they had on Sports Talk several years ago when they started it. Has Mississippi, Mississippi has always been considered a football state as the primary sport. Is it becoming more of a baseball state?
I think so. I mean, there's not one, I would say, more positioned to be the baseball state. I mean, Texas with all the people and universities, but if you look at the three big ones here that, compete in the larger conferences, not to dismiss the SWAC teams in any way, but Ole Miss, State, and Southern, they're always right there. Even though State and Southern had a couple of bad years back-to-back, the reality is, Mississippi could be the baseball state if it truly wanted to be.
Well, and it's not even at that level. It's all the way down. William Carey, if they score less than 15 runs in a game, it's been a bad day, and the coach is going to make them do laps. I mean, they are just piling on everybody they play.
Every year, too. I mean, they're so good, but they can really hit this year. They've scored 30 runs several times. I mean, 30 runs, come on.
That's unheard of. Yeah. That doesn't happen. But, you've got Delta State with such a long, proud tradition.
Don't ever forget to mention Delta State, because they've been, to me, one of the most amazing programs through my lifetime. I've never remembered Delta State having a bad baseball team. They may not win 50 games one year, but they're not going to have a bad baseball team. Not going to happen.
You talk bad about Delta State, somebody will come up and thump you in the forehead in Boo Ferris's name.
Yeah, I love Coach Kennison, too, so I go way back when he was at Prep. What a great guy. Could throw gas from left and right hand. I mean, that's a baller right there, buddy.
Well, I think we've settled it. I think it's decided Mississippi is now a baseball state. If you disagree, I really feel bad for how wrong you are, but that's where we're at. Lance and I have decided we are the committee, self-appointed, but we are the committee. We're a baseball state. Buddy, enjoyed it as I always do.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.